Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. First up, breaking news coming in at the top of this bulletin. Now, President Trump had announced that he's going to make a major announcement on Russia, Ukraine. Donald Trump's mega statement from Oval Office was the addition of secondary tariffs on Russia of 100% if, and I quote him, we don't have a deal within 50 days. Any secondary tariff would likely be on countries who continue to trade with Moscow. Trump also confirmed what had been previously said, that top-of-the-line weapons would be sent to Ukraine in an operation which would be coordinated by NATO. Another very important statement in terms of the cooperation between US and NATO. During the meeting between NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Trump said he was very unhappy with Russia and disappointed in President Vladimir Putin, adding that he wanted the war in Ukraine to end. Listen in.
And one of the reasons that you're here today is to hear that we are very unhappy, I am, with Russia. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means.
Pranay Upadhyay, my colleague, joins me for more in this. Pranay, US has threatened a second round of 100% tariffs on Russia and those countries that continue to trade with Russia. This is a huge development from the days that we saw when he was siding with President Putin to now when he's siding with the Ukrainian President Zelensky.
You're absolutely right, Geeta, on that count. On 20th February 2025, when President Donald Trump met Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine in Oval Office, that was a different tone, tenor, and environment. And after that, when today he was meeting with the NATO General Secretary General, there was a completely different environment. So the complete U-turn is visible after the 6 phone calls between President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Putin. Clearly, President Donald Trump has realized that it's not easy that he could stop that war, with just a phone call, with what he has claimed during his campaign, as well as after resuming the Oval Office. But clearly, one thing you can make out, Geeta, here, that as far as the bilateral trade is concerned, Russia is among the most sanctioned country right now as far as the US tariffs and US sanctions are concerned. Still, if you see the trade figures, the trade is heavily, lopsided, and there is a trade deficit between Russia and United States, about $3.5 billion bilateral trade figure as far as the current figures are concerned. And out of that $3.5 billion bilateral trade, it's like $300 billion of Russian import in the US market. So clearly, President Donald Trump is looking at secondary tariff, about 100% tariff. But I don't think so that tariff is going to be a detrimental factor for President Vladimir Putin to make a decision in this regard. But definitely, the kind of weapon he is planning to send to Russia-Ukraine battlefield, that is going to affect and impact the future course of his strategy towards Russia and the future course of peace deal.
Right. Pranay, stay on with us. There are a lot of breaking news and interesting stories that are coming our way. Now, Trump has done it again, boasting of ending wars in Congo and averting a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. India has now reiterated that no third party had acted as a negotiator to end the precision strikes against Pakistan, which has been harboring terrorists and funding terrorist activities. But President Trump is unrelenting. Listen in.
We've been very successful in settling wars. You have India, Pakistan. You have Rwanda and the Congo. That was going on for 30 years. India, by the way, and Pakistan would have been a nuclear war within another week, the way that was going. That was going very badly. And we did that through trade. I said, we're not going to talk to you about trade unless you get this thing settled. And they did. And they were both great leaders. We've been very successful in settling wars. You have India, Pakistan. You have Rwanda and the Congo. That was going on for 30 years. India, by the way, and Pakistan would have been a nuclear war within another week, the way that was going. That was going very badly. And we did that through trade. I said, we're not going to talk to you about trade unless you get this thing settled. And they did. And they were both great leaders.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is in China. Jaishankar is visiting China for the first time in 5 years post the 2020 Galwan Valley clash. Ahead of External Affairs Minister's visit, China said Dalai Lama was a thorn in China-India relations. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, who is in Beijing for Foreign Ministers SCO meet, met with the Chinese Vice President, and then India-China ties were also discussed during the meeting. In his opening remarks at the meeting, Jaishankar said that India-China ties steadily improved since meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping in Kazan last October. He also later met with his Chinese counterpart, a very important bilateral meeting with Bondi. The minister said he hoped discussions remained in positive trajectory. Jaishankar highlighted resumption of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. Jaishankar also said that international situation was very complex. China, meanwhile, said that succession of Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, was a thorn in China-India relations and that Tibet was a burden for India-China ties.
Excellency, our bilateral relationship, as you have noted, has been steadily improving since the meeting of Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping in Kazan last October. I'm confident that my discussions on this visit will maintain that positive trajectory.
Pranay, the fact that we're looking at very important talks between India and China for a very long time, they have talked about the fact that there needs to be a resumption on many other areas, but border standoff still remains where it is, and terrorism certainly not mentioned in both the statements.
You rightly pointed out, Geeta, terrorism did not figure in both statement issued by the Chinese government and the Ministry of External Affairs. But there are certain other factors which did figure, especially about the trade and economic development related issues, especially the rare earth metals and India's concern regarding that. The transboundary river hydrological data issue that also figured because post Galwan incident, China has stopped sharing, and we have also reported it. Geeta, you broke the story on India Today that China is still not sharing the hydrological data, and External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, while visiting China and having a meeting with his Chinese counterpart, he also raised this issue. Besides that, the peace and tranquility on border should be maintained. This remains a key factor as far as the normalization of India-China relation. And the differences should not turn into dispute. This is the same thing which was stated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he had a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. So clearly, these remains an issue of core concern for India. And the unresolved border or the line of actual control lending 3,488 kilometers, that remains an issue. And that's why India has repeatedly said this thing to Chinese side and Chinese leadership that till the time we resolve this border, but the peace and tranquility should be maintained on border, and that remains a core issue and sensitivity for India. But you would have noticed, Geeta, and since we were also discussing just a while ago, that how the Chinese statement has some tone of grandstanding, some tones of preaching that as a big brotherly preaching to India, that how India-China relations should be managed, how these two growing aspiring economies should behave and manage their disputes and differences. But clearly, we do not see a concrete action, and that's remain a question, Geeta. It's been almost 25 years of the SR level mechanism. Wang Yi, who's also a special representative for Chinese president, is due to visit India, and India has been expecting since 2006. The boundary resolution process is kind of stuck. So we are expecting China to show some, some concession or some progress at least, because political parameters are not yet being decided, and that remains an issue.
Right, Pranay, thank you so much for joining us. Very important observation there. 3-4 paragraph statement by India, a very long speech by the Chinese when it comes to their press release on the meeting, preaching to India as to what needs to be done. How will this move forward? We'll have to wait and see. Now, there is an uproar in Trump administration after a memo released by the U.S. Department of Justice and the FBI over Jeffrey Epstein, claiming that he wasn't killed and had died by suicide, and there were no list of clients with the government agencies. Questions are now being raised over U.S. Attorney Pam Bondi's claims that list of Epstein was lying on her desk.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for an American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. attorney, Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of his death?
Sure, if I
Pam,
could.
could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein.
And that is how the Jeffrey Epstein's ghost rose from the dead. The release of a memo by the US Department of Justice and FBI said, after an exhaustive investigation, it was concluded that no incriminating client list of Jeffrey Epstein was found. And that Epstein committed suicide in his cell and was not murdered. But this is in stark contrast to the US Attorney General Pam Bondi's February interview to Fox News, where she said the Epstein client list was sitting on my desk right now.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive.
When confronted by a reporter during a cabinet meeting, President Trump lashed out, defending his Attorney General.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein.
As MAGA supporters criticized the Attorney General at Kirk's Turning Point USA Student Action Summit in Florida, President Trump defended Pam Bondi over the weekend on his Truth Social. Strong MAGA voices call for Bondi's resignation and a full transparency about Epstein files. As President Trump defends his Attorney General and also is trying to win over the MAGA supporters over the Epstein fallout, an infighting has broken out between the Department of Justice and the FBI. FBI Director Kash Patel and FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino were confronted on this in a meeting. Post the meeting, FBI Deputy Director said that he was thinking of resigning and did not come to work on Friday. However, Kash Patel maintained that these conspiracy theories were not just true. Jeffrey Epstein was a disgraced financier and convicted sex offender. His case was also high profile because of his ties with wealthy, high-profile people. In August 2019, Epstein was found unresponsive in his New York City jail cell while he was awaiting trial. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. His death was ruled a suicide. During the 2024 presidential campaign, Trump said he would consider releasing additional government files on the case. The MAGA supporters hoped that this will implicate other high-profile figures. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
The U.S. military, in cooperation with the Panamanian police, has begun a new series of military exercises aimed at protecting the strategic Panama Canal amid tensions over alleged Chinese influence along the prized trade route. The exercises began with the arrival of 3 U.S. military helicopters, 2 UH-60 Blackhawks and 1 CH-47 Chinook, which landed at the Panama Pacific Airport located on the site of the former U.S. base Howard. Michael Palacios, Deputy Commissioner of Panama's National Aeronautical Service, explained that the maneuvers aim to prepare Panamanian forces as well as regional partners to deal with any potential threats to the security and defense of the canal. Now, to discuss this and more, I'm being joined by a guest from Hudson Institute in Tokyo, Dr. Satoru Nagao. Dr. Nagao, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. Now, this is a very important exercise. It is happening amid concerns that the U.S. has with regards to Chinese influence growing in that part of the world. What do these military exercises really mean? This one and the one that happened a month ago.
Okay, this is a very good question. Indeed, when we check the history of the United States, the U.S. policy towards the American continent, including Canada and to the southern tip of the South America, Latin America, is different with American policy to other regions in the world. In this case, America feel more uncomfortable if the other powers intervene the situation in the American continent from north to south. So that's
Yes.
why when President Trump clearly say Canada is the 51st state of the United States, or Greenland is part of should be the part of the United States, and Panama, U.S. will get back. This is not just something situations outside of the American continent. This American feel this region is the region of the American interest. So that's why more serious we should think, and and America itself feel that this is serious too. But at the same time, President Trump's negotiation style is he chooses bilateral negotiation by using the intimidation. So when we hear the intimidation, of course everyone's surprised because intimidation level is very high. But at the same time, still there is a space to slope through the negotiation because he tried to deal to get something generally. So that's why in case of Canada, he said, yes, Canada should be the 51st state of the United States, but it hasn't happened yet. Greenland case, Panama case, always same. So that's why when we hear the intimidation of the President Trump, yes, this is the demand, but at the same time, this is intimidation. And the real interest of the United States is a little bit different. That is important.
Dr. Nagao, then you just spoke about intimidation, and that's why I have to ask you this. President Trump spoke about reclaiming of the canal. Do you think Panama is cooperating with the United States of America with these military drills, so on and so forth? It's just because they do not want President Trump to act on those statements that he made of reclaiming the canal?
Yes, that could happen because we can remember the history of the 1989 when U.S. intervened in Panama. That time, the dictator of the Panama smuggled the drugs to the United States, and this was the trigger of the United States to intervene in Panama as a self-defense. That is, so they occupied it, disbanded the army of the Panama, and now Panama only have something armed police, not military. So, view from this history, there is a possibility U.S. can intervene Panama militarily because it has happened in the past. So military exercise happened near Panama. Panama government remembers the history, and this is a very serious pressure for them, I think. But at the same time, because of this has intimidation. If the U.S. really want to invade Panama, of course, they can do any time without exercises. Exercises means that this is coercive diplomacy, so which is still within the diplomacy, not a war. So that's why this is making pressure toward Panama. But at the same time, still the space is in the diplomacy. Diplomatic negotiation can solve the issue just now. If the Panama concede enough, of course, U.S. will not intervene. And indeed, the Panama government already think this is a serious issue, so they have already conceded. For example, the U.S. Navy can go through the Panama Canal freely, and the company who owned some facility of the Panama Canal, which is originally the company in Hong Kong, but they cut the relation with them because the China's influence is pushing the United States to intervene in this issue. So that's why the Panama tried to concede. This means that if Panama concede enough, through the negotiation, it will slope.
Dr. Nagao, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. We'll keep coming back to you to share all the details on what's happening when it comes to the US military drills. Now, Bangladesh's interim chief advisor, Professor Mohammad Yunus, initiated what many are referring to as mango diplomacy with India. A consignment of 1,000 kilograms of Haribhanga mangoes, a highly prized variety cultivated in northern Bangladesh, was dispatched to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Apart from Prime Minister Modi, Yunus is also gifting mangoes to West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and Tripura Chief Minister Manik Saha, the leaders of two of Indian states that border Bangladesh. The gesture is being seen as part of a broader diplomatic effort by the current caretaker administration in Dhaka to re-engage New Delhi. The mangoes followed a diplomatic exchange earlier in June when Prime Minister Modi sent Eid-ul-Adha greetings to the people of Bangladesh and to Dr. Yunus. In a return letter dated June 6th, Yunus noted Prime Minister Modi's message that reflects the shared values and the connect between the two nations. The ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas has inflicted catastrophic damage upon Gaza, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble and civilians struggling to access food and clean water. Local health authorities report that over 58,000 people have been killed and more than 100,000 injured since the outbreak of the war 21 months ago. And now we have places where children were going to take water being attacked by the IDF. Here's a report.
The suffering of the people in Gaza continues to deepen with each passing day. In a heartbreaking recent incident, an Israeli airstrike killed 10 people, 6 of them children, as they waited to fill water containers in central Gaza. Dozens more were wounded in the attack.
There's no place or even 1 centimeter in the Gaza Strip, from Rafah in the south to Beit Hanun in the north, that is safe because of the Israeli aggression and these strikes and this war. This is a war of ethnic cleansing that Netanyahu and his army are doing. There is no safe place.
Video showed multiple casualties, including children, amid buckets and water carriers. The Israeli military has acknowledged the strike, calling it a technical error, and stated that the incident is under review. Earlier, at least 31 Palestinians were shot and killed while making their way to an aid distribution point in Gaza.
We were going to the humanitarian aid in Al-Shakush. When we entered, they shot 30 people. There are many martyrs and wounded there.
Young people go to bring food. This is not food. This is killing young people. This is the blood of Muslims. This is a lie they brought and presented to us.
The deaths come amid a continued deadlock in ceasefire negotiations, with no breakthrough following 2 days of meetings between US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Meanwhile, speaking to the media, President Trump expressed hope that progress would be made soon.
Gaza, we are talking, and hopefully we're going to get that straightened out over the next week. Let's see what happens.
As of now, more than 58,000 people have been killed since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas. With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
That's all in this edition of World Today. But before I go, here's an interesting story. From runway to record books, the iconic Birkin bag just fetched a jaw-dropping $10 million at an auction, making it the most expensive handbag ever sold. Take a look at the report. Goodbye and take care.
To most, it seems like just another scratched leather handbag. But to fashion collectors, it is a masterpiece. A legendary Birkin bag has just shattered records, selling for a mind-blowing $10 million, or approximately 85 crores, at an auction making it the most expensive handbag ever. What began as a €1 million bid quickly spiraled into a 10-minute bidding war amongst 9 elite collectors, eventually won by a private buyer from Japan. Sotheby's confirmed the frenzy, saying after weeks of anticipation the bidding opened at €1 million, prompting a gasp from the room. The previous record, an Hermes Kelly 28 in diamond-studded crocodile skin, sold for $513,000 at Christie's in Hong Kong back in 2021. The Birkin just blew that record out of the water. Born in 1984, from an in-flight conversation between actress Jane Birkin and Hermes CEO Jean-Louis Dumas, the iconic bag began as a sketch on an airplane sick bag. Today, it's not just a handbag. It is a symbol of timeless luxury, status, and craftsmanship. With Sujata Sharda, Bureau Report, India Today.